Hiya. Thanks for coming by. This is one of those artists and videos that I can't believe I haven't done yet. And I'm trying to do that. I talked about a band a few days ago that I can't believe I hadn't talked about before. And this is absolutely one of those bands, artists that I'm surprised that I haven't done it. I think every time I want to talk about a group like Global Communication, I quake in my boots a little bit because I don't know where to start. My love and passion for this group and the two guys in it is so strong and it's so heavy and complicated and it goes back so long and I have so many records. I don't know where to start. Honestly, I know it sounds silly, but I don't know where to start when it comes to the music of Mark Pritchard and Tom Middleton. I don't know where to start. These guys are one of my all-time favorites. I did a list of my all-time favorite albums last week. I did my top 50 list, and I think I mentioned Global Communication in the top 10, and I mean it. You guys always ask me what some of my favorite albums are. Global Communication, I think most days would be in my all-time top 10. Kind of switches, but in terms of which album I love. Most times it's Pentamerous Metamorphosis. Sometimes it's Reload, a collection of short stories. I wanted to mention that in my top list, but I was trying to only mention one artist or band in the list. Because if I talked about what my favorite artists and albums were, there'd be like, my top 50 would be like five different bands. So I wanted to avoid that because I know it's boring. But I'm here today to talk about Global Communication and Reload and Link and Harmonic 33 and Harmonic 313. And I could go on. You Global Communication, Jedi Knights, you Global Communication fans know that the team of Pritchard and Middleton is a deeply complicated subject. Because, in my opinion, especially in the case of Mark Pritchard, some of the greatest electronic music that has ever been released has been from these two. And I lean toward Mark Pritchard because I think if I'm going to pick an individual, one of the two from the group, I love Tom Middleton. I'm not trying to say I don't like what he has done outside of what he's done with Pritchard, but what Mark has done on his own, every bit as brilliant, I think. Mark Pritchard, to me, there are like five king electronic producers that have ever existed, and Pritchard is in there. Again, I have a hard time talking about this band because I love them so much, and I really, really love Mark Pritchard. I have a couple of personal dealings with him too, and so I think that affects the way I think of him. He's a fucking nice guy too, on top of it. He's an unbelievably nice person. He engages with his fans. He is a hell of a nice guy, and he's a brilliant artist, and I love him. Also, he's got a new album coming with Tom York. Yeah, that Tom York. You Radiohead fans, pay attention. He's got a new album, a full album coming with Tom York. Pritchard put out an album, Under the Sun, I don't know, about a decade ago, maybe not quite a decade. Brilliant album. Brilliant album. And it had vocals from York on one of those tracks. He's got a whole album coming with York. This is what Tom York thinks of Mark Pritchard. I'm not the only one. I honestly believe this. I think there's Aphex Twin, and I think there's Autechre, and I think there are people like Carl Craig, and then there's Mark Pritchard. I'd put Andy Weatherall way up there too. I know Mark Pritchard isn't a huge fan of Andy Weatherall's music. Maybe he's changed his mind on that, but I'll get into that later in the video. Because I've talked to Mark Pritchard outside of, a professional capacity. He's a fucking nice guy. He really is. He's a hell of a nice person. Anyway, Global Communication. I'll try to, I don't want this video to ramble because this is one of the reasons I avoided doing this video. I kept thinking, how do I gather up all my Global Communication records, all of the remixes, all of the GC, the Reload, the Jedi Knights, the Link, the solo shit, the Cosmos, Tom Middleton's project. How do I get all this shit together and show it in a video? Well, I decided to not do that. I'm going to show one thing, because there are two major releases by these guys that I think have, for most people, have stood the test of time. One of which is definitely my favorite. Secret Ingredients. See, names keep rolling through my head here. All of the different names and monikers they've used over the years to record their brilliant music. I beg of you, if you've ever respected my opinion, go look into these guys. It's I want there to be a little mystery to this video, because these guys have been putting out music for over 30 years, and they've put music out under dozens of names. Chameleon, there's another name. They've done ambient, house, techno, drum and bass, hip hop, prog, you name it. And the thing that is really special about what these guys do, and in my opinion, Mark Pritchard in particular, is that they dabble with different types of music, but they do it better than anyone else in that genre, especially Pritchard. I'll give you an example. Like in the late 2000s, Pritchard was making a lot of dubstep type stuff, and people weren't expecting that from him, but he did it because he wanted to do it. Pritchard's one of those artists who's not happy doing the same thing over and over and over again, regardless of what anybody says. And he's able to step into whatever genre of music he's doing, and he's able to make it better than anybody who only makes that kind of music in that genre. That's the talent he has. The dude's a star. He is he is a once in a millennium kind of talent, in my opinion. Why he's not a household name, I don't know. He's amazing and a hell of a nice guy, like I said. I'll get to that in a minute. But oh my God, my relationship with global communication and these guys, I'm trying to think of where it started. I don't know that I remember. I think I learned of Mark Pritchard through early rave records. Like he did a rhubarb and custard. You remember rhubarb and custard? That was Pritchard. I didn't know that at the time, but I think generally I think that was my most inadvertent initial contact with anything those guys did. And then with Tom Middleton, I think inadvertently the first thing I ever heard that he'd been involved with was a 12-inch called Schizophrenia that he collaborated with none other than Aphex Twin on, Richard James. I think that was my intro to both of those guys. It was Schizophrenia and Rhubarb and Custard. Random, but as I think back, I think that's when I first heard those guys doing anything, any kind of music. Together, I think it had to have been the first time I remembered. It might have been the Cyberdawn EP. They, as Global Communication, and they weren't recording under Global Communication, I think, at that time. I'm going to mess up facts here, guys, by the way. So you OCD fact checkers, take it easy. These guys have recorded under a lot of different names. Mystic Institute, I think maybe was the 12-inch they recorded under. I have the record. Just take it easy, all right? I'm not going to remember every little minute detail the way that it actually happened, and I doubt many people would. I doubt Pritchard and Middleton would even fucking remember, so take it easy, all right? I think the Mystic Institute 12-inch was the first time I heard them doing anything together. Maybe it was a Reload 12-inch. I don't know. I don't know the involvement that Middleton had on all the Reload stuff. So, but I think and I'm going to get to 7614, obviously. In fact, I might as well talk about that now. One of the tracks on 7614, one of the tracks was called 1431. All of the tracks are just, their titles are how long they are. They're all timed, and that's the title of each track, their timings. 1431 was on an earlier EP, Cyberdawn, Mystic Institute, something like that. I don't quite remember. It's a white label. It's a pretty boring looking record, so easy to forget. They ended up taking that track off of that 12 inch and putting it on the 7614 album later. But that might have been the first time. The first time I remember buying an album that said Global Communication on it was Pentamerous Metamorphosis, which was a remix album. And to me, and I mentioned this in my top 50 albums last week, Pentamerous Metamorphosis is one of my all-time favorite albums, bar none. And it's a remix album, which is kind of quirky, I know. But if you go and they remix Chapter House, the album was called Blood Music, which I also love. That's a great album. But if you go and listen to Chapter House's Blood Music, and then you listen to Pentamerous Metamorphosis, you kind of scratch your head. You're like, what the fuck? Is this the same music? Like, there are tiny little sprinkles of the original track, like just little pieces of it. But for the most part, Pentamerous Metamorphosis is a global communication album. I don't know how it formed. I'm wondering if Chapter House, when they heard it, they were like, this needs to be a global communication album. This goes beyond a remix album. And to this day, I think Pentamerous is the greatest remix album of all time because that's what it is. But it becomes something that is altogether global communication. It is them. They have taken the seedlings of these ideas from Blood Music and expanded it into this entirely new experience. And it's beautiful. One of the best ambient albums of all time. An early example of how amazing these guys were. And they would only prove to shapeshift and show you all the other things they could do in later years, because these guys had a lot more up their sleeve than just ambient music. A great example of that, and I'm going to be jumping around here. I told you this is going to be hard to put all this together. You global communication fans, if you were into them in the 90s, it was a constant barrage of releases from these guys. Records would come and you'd see a name and you didn't know who it was. And you'd look at the credits and it would be like, oh shit, this is the GC guys. They just put a drum and bass 12-inch out called Chameleon, or from Chameleon, which is brilliant, by the way. Oh, here's another thing. The Way, The Deep. 2 deep house cuts. Nothing to do with ambient music. Just straight up disco deep house shit. Oh, here's Secret Ingredients. More disco deep house stuff. Here's Reload, collection of short stories, full-on ambient techno music. These guys, it's almost impossible to explain how good these guys are and how well they do every genre that they partake in. Jedi Knights, here's electro music. Who saw this coming? Here's some electro funk. Oh, wait a minute. It's Pritchard and Middleton. Sounded nothing like anything else they'd ever done. Jedi Knights came out of nowhere. It was like, holy shit. And how good is New School Science? You GC fans. How brilliant is that fucking album? It's amazing. I miss those times so much in the 90s where there were so many artists doing this kind of thing. Constantly recording things under different names. It was always good. But arguably nobody was better at doing this than the GC boys. Immense amount of talent. Jedi Knight's New School Science, one of the greatest breaks electro albums I've ever heard in my life. 7614. I think this has gone on to be many people's favorite ambient album. At least in the top 5, right? How many of you out there believe this? I wouldn't disagree with you. 7614 is amazing. Go out and look at all the reissues and the remasters. The market will always tell you how good an album really is, and when you look at the number of reissues and remasters coming from Global Communication, it pretty much proves that there are a lot of people who just can't get enough of this shit. And 7614 is a brilliant album. Aged very well. Extremely well. I want to say 7614 came after Pentamerous, didn't it? I'm sorry that listen, again, I'm going to make errors here. It's been over 30 years, but I want to say Pentamerous came out in 93 and then 7614 came out in 94, right? Anyway, I have my copy of 7614 came out on a label called Dedicated, just like Pentamerous did. Chapter House was on this label too. Uh, 7614 came out on a double vinyl package, and then mine was packaged with a 12-inch called Incidental Harmony. And I think the other song is called Sublime Creation. In fact, I've got that one right next to me, and I will show these in a minute. My original copy has a copy of that 12-inch. I know they've remastered it and re-released it a number of times since. I don't know that it's ever come with that 12-inch. I don't know. I have one reissue of all these things. I don't normally buy reissues, as you guys know, but I did buy one a few years ago because I thought it was worth it. It absolutely is worth it. 7614. How much do you love this album? I love it too. It's amazing. I mean, one of the premier 90s ambient house albums. It doesn't have any house to it, but I'm just talking about that 90s era ambient music that kind of dabbled with dance music a little bit. They did that, and then they did New School Science, Jedi Knights, Total Electro Funk. Then they did Secret Ingredients, Disco. And again, I want to go back to Reload. This is where all this shit started, really. Pritchard and his Reload project. Collection of Short Stories is one of the greatest techno albums I've ever heard in my life. You see the theme here, right? I mean, a couple of guys are responsible for all of this brilliant music in every respective genre. Ambient, techno, electro funk, disco. What are the odds that somebody can put out the best in its genre every single time? I'm making that argument. That's how talented these guys are. They don't just sit down to make an album. They sit down to make something truly special. Whether they're trying to, I think they're just so talented that, and then their quality, their standards of quality are so high that they can't help but make classics every single time. Speaking of classics, Global Communication, The Way, The Deep. They did nothing. Global Communication was kind of, people think of that as an ambient project, and it is for the most part, but then go listen to The Way, The Deep and tell me that that's ambient. Nope. That's fucking throw your hands in the air, high energy house music. Beautiful stuff. Groove. Remember Groove? Just funky house music. They were all over the place, and it was all brilliant, always. You look at stuff they've done in the last 20 years, especially Pritchard. This is just a preference. Again, I'm not trying to say I have. It's nothing that I want to say negative about Tom Middleton. I just prefer what Pritchard's been doing. I think in recent years, Middleton, he did his Cosmos project. I wasn't a fan of all of that stuff, but I am a fan of his production methods. He's got a very unique style, but he's really focused on like high energy house music, some ambient stuff. He put out a sleep album. You'll have to look that up on your own. I'm not altogether sure what he was doing there. I think he was just trying to make the ultimate ambient music to play while you're sleeping. This is what he's passionate about. And it was cool. But you look at Pritchard's output, and he dabbled with dubstep and drum and bass and funk. The Harmonic 33 shit, Harmonic 313, the Africa high tech. This dude is seriously talented. I mean, he's never done anything that I didn't think was any less than brilliant. The Africa high tech album, how great is that? Amazing album. Unbelievable. His production methods are off the chain on that one. His solo album, going back to that, Under the Sun. All of the 12 inches he's put out, all of his remixes, and I'll get to that in a minute. You're probably starting to see why it was frustrating to even know where to begin with how I feel about these guys. I absolutely love these men. They are brilliant at what they do, especially Pritchard. And I can't wait for his album with Tom York to come out. Pritchard's one of those guys where, and Middleton too, but for well over 30 years, everything they do, I'm excited. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I can't wait to hear it. And this New York thing, I'm like, oh my God, I've already got it pre-ordered. I'm ready to go. Bring it. I want it. Let's hear it. Because I know it's going to be good. Why would Pritchard let me down now? I mean, it's been 30 plus years of straight quality from this dude. Why would he decide to let people down now? I don't think he would. I haven't seen a lot of shit with his name on it recently, but he's been working on a new album. That is a very brief overview of this group's music. Did I mention Link? I think I did. Link, another early pseudonym for these guys. Dive into it. If you don't know these guys, or you know global communication, but you don't know any of these other names, go look it up. And I've noticed that Music on Vinyl has been putting out reissues lately. They reissued 7614. I don't know how it sounds. I didn't get it. They reissued Collection of Short Stories. They reissued Pentamerous Metamorphosis. I haven't heard them. I don't buy anything on Music on Vinyl. I just avoid it. I've never really been pleased with anything they've done. So I avoid those reissues. One reissue I did pick up lately, and I'm going to show this. This is the one thing I'm going to show because I think it encapsulates better than any collection. Again, rather than me sitting here for 6 hours showing records, I thought I would just show this one release because I think it's a very good starting point for a lot of people trying to get into this group. Or maybe you've only heard one album, but this is a good starting point. This is called Transmissions. This is a box set. This came out a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. They basically packaged Pentamerous Metamorphosis, 7614, and a collection of other stuff. And I will show those in a minute. But it's kind of got the essential, all the essentials are in here. Kind of. I mean, there's no Reload in here. Can we get a Reload box set? Would that be possible? Mark, can we do this? Can you take all the EPs? They already did this, by the way. They put out like a triple pack 20 years ago of all the early stuff from the 90s. They did a triple pack. Can we get those again? And can you package it with Collection of Short Stories? Is that possible? Can we do this? People are going to buy that shit. What makes this box set special to me is that Mark oversaw this. You read the liner notes, and Mark supervised this project. So if you're going to buy any of the remasters, this is the one to get. If you want it on vinyl. I don't know if this came out, I'm assuming this came out on CD. But this has been remastered a number of times. To me, this is the only one worth picking up. This actually sounds better than the original pressings. And of course, like an idiot savant, I've sat there and I've recorded all of them and compared and contrasted all of them. This remaster from a few years ago is the best one I've ever heard. So if you have the means, I would pick this up. Great collection. This, and I'm going to show this, this is a remastered vision of Pentamerous Metamorphosis. This is the version that comes with this box set. This is not the original cover. If you want to go see the original cover, you can go look that up yourself. This is the remastered version. And it sounds fantastic. It comes in a gatefold sleeve. And it sounds fantastic. Best version I've ever heard. The version that I have, Well, the original, I have the promo CD that came out in the UK, and it actually has some Star Wars samples that had to get removed, I think, because of copyright reasons. They ran into this problem with Jedi Knights too. I have two copies of that. They have different labels. One version has Luke Skywalker and Stormtrooper labels, and then the other one has the Evolution label on it. There's an evolution symbol. Have you guys ever seen me wear my blue shirt, by the way, and it has a yellow dot with 3 black lines on it? That's the evolution label. That's Pritchard and Middleton's label. So when you see me wear that blue shirt with the yellow dot with the black lines, that's a global communication reference. You guys have already figured that out, I'm sure. Maybe I've already explained that, but anyway. As you can see, I'm a big fan of these guys. But that original CD had some C-3PO samples on it. Jedi Knights ran into that too. They had to remove samples and they had to take the labels off, and obviously Star Wars nerds, these guys. But the CD, if you want to hear the special unedited version or whatever, you should go find that UK promo CD. They ended up re-releasing Pentamerous in the US in '98, and that's when the vinyl came out. But it didn't have those Star Wars samples on them. They had to take them out. It's George Lucas, man. You don't want to piss him off, right? But that vinyl pressing that came out in '98, and I think it only came out here in the United States, that vinyl pressing is okay at best. It's not great. This one that I just showed, beautiful. Sounds amazing. No complaints. Great stuff. They also remastered and repackaged this. The one that everybody knows, 7614. Here it is. Comes in a nice gatefold sleeve. Sounds great. Remastered to perfection. Sounds better than any previous version I have. I have 2 other versions of this. I have the original press that came with the 12-inch. Then they remastered it again about 20 years ago. I want to say 2005. That one sounds pretty good. But they both pale in comparison to this one. I think this one sounds the best. So again, a good reason to pick up this box set. And they threw this in here, and this is where I'm going to talk about a few of my preferences and opinions, and you guys can turn me off at this point if you want. But they threw this triple album in there as a not a bonus, but well, it is a bonus, but it basically is kind of encapsulating that period of their life. I forget the name of this. What is this? Curated singles and remixes is what they call it. I already had all these tracks, every damn track in this box set I already have. But I love these guys. And I wanted this on fresh, new, remastered discs. And I do not regret picking these up. The track listing on here, you get Incidental Harmony and Sublime Creation. Those are the 2 tracks that are on that bonus 12-inch. So those fit in nicely with 7614, although they're a little more dancey. You hear some drums going on. I don't know that they fit completely with the album, but you get them here. Who cares? You're getting great music. Whether it fits with the rest of the album, who cares? It's still great stuff. You get their remix of Sensorama's Aspirin. Every remix these guys did was amazing, and I'll get into that in more detail in a minute. They put their remix of the Grid's Roller Coaster on here. Lone steps up to do a remix of 523, which is a track from 7614. And then they also put The Deep and The Way on here, which are 2, again, like I mentioned before, 2 up-tempo, deep house disco cuts. Doesn't sound anything like 7614, but you get them on here. And they're both on their own side of vinyl, so they sound great. By the way, I would recommend picking up the original double pack promo of The Way, The Deep. It's a very boring looking release. It's a white cover, has a sticker on the cover, but it has the demo or original version of The Way on there. I think that's actually better than the one they ended up releasing. This one they ended up releasing is the Secret Ingredients Mix, which is another one of their names, and it's amazing. I think the original version's even better. And the only place you can find that I know of is on that promo. So go track that down if you can. It's a beautiful song. The only way I feel like they could have made this transmissions better, and I understand it probably wasn't possible or economically feasible to do it, is if they put Remotion on there, right? UGC, this is where I'm going to nerd out so people can tune out if they want, but UGC fans, how perfect would this box set have been if Remotion was in there? Remotion is a remix album, by the way. And you can go look that up. It came out in, I don't know, mid 90s, 96, I think, 95, 96, 97, something like that. It compiled a bunch of GC remixes. And a couple of these are on there, like the Grid remix. But I think, God, it would have been perfect if that were in this box set. Now, I understand probably because of licensing issues, they probably couldn't do it. Or if they did do it, it would have cost a fortune. The main reason to get that, I think, and these remixes are all available on their respective 12 inches or releases, but the most beautiful remix they ever did was the remix they did for Navkatse, the Wild Horses remix. And to my knowledge, the only place you can find that on vinyl is the Remotion album. It's on a CD. Navkatse was a Japanese group, by the way. And in the early 90s, they were kind of an indie pop band. And then in the early mid 90s, they put out an album that was electronic. And then they brought in like the who's who of all of the greatest electronic names of that time. They're almost all from Warp. In fact, maybe all of them. Yeah, maybe not all of them. But they brought in Global Communication. They brought in Aphex Twin. They brought in Mark Clifford of Seafeel. They brought in Autechre, Ultramarine. I mean, it was nuts. It's called Nevermind the Distortions. It came out, it was a double CD package. They put out like a 12-inch. It was a heavily truncated version. It had like 3 or 4 remixes on it. But if you get the double CD version, it's like 2 full CDs of remixes. Highly, highly recommend that. One of the greatest remix packages you'll ever find. But also one of the best remix albums I've ever heard, other than Pentamerous Metamorphosis, is Remotion. Track that down if you can. Again, to have Remotion with this Transmissions box set would have been fucking beautiful. Just to have Wild Horses remastered. Beautiful remix. They basically take this 4-minute indie rock track and turn it into this 15-minute ambient dub monster. You know, it's just a beautiful song. One of the best things they ever did. Alas, they probably couldn't do it. It probably would have cost a lot of money. Probably not worth it. I don't know. It would be nice to know why, but Transmissions is gorgeous the way it is. It could have been a little bit better if you threw Remotion in there or whatever. I'm happy to have it. This box set too is fun to have because as I was reading through the liner notes, and this is where I'm going to get super nerdy even still, is back in the 2000s there was a website called Reload Online. Is anybody watching this know what I'm talking about? It was a bunch of Global Communication fans. And Mark Pritchard was really active. Like he was in there every day talking to his fans, talking to me, talking to us. He was trading records with us. This is one of the things I love about Mark is it's important to him to have a relationship with his fans. Whether he tries to do that or not, it doesn't really matter. I think to him it just makes sense. It's natural. And one of the cool things about this box set is as I opened it up and read the liner notes, he thanked us. He thanked the Reload Online people. Because we were always encouraging him to remaster things and shit like that. Mark, if you're ever watching this video, I'm friends with Steve Soul. Do you remember Steve? I'm sure you do. Steve and I were friendly. And you and I have talked many times. I used to be on the Reload Online site. you guys can tune out now. But Mark, if you ever watch this, you should totally come on my channel. You just should. Come on, man. I met you actually. I'm talking to Mark as if he'd watch this. I met Mark at an Africa High Tech show. I live in Portland, the Portland, Oregon area, and he came to Portland with Africa High Tech, and I said hello to him that night. I did not tell him that I was part of that Reload Online site. In hindsight, I wish I had. I think Mark probably would have appreciated that, but in the moment, I felt like I didn't want to bother him with it. But I remember driving away that night and I regretted it. I was like, shit, I should have told him. I just didn't want to bother him. You know what I mean? Artists get bothered too often. And I didn't want to be that guy who was bothering him about something that was annoying him. But I think in hindsight, he probably would have appreciated it. I don't know. But anyway, Mark, you should totally come on my channel. Do you remember about a decade ago, someone from Discogs reached out to you for an interview and you said yes? Do you remember this? That was me. I used to work for Discogs. Now, I don't work at Discogs anymore because they're shit and they're scum. But you should totally come on my channel. Why not? What's it going to hurt? I would love to talk to Mark Pritchard and interview him. He's such a nice guy. I feel like I know him already. I've met him. I've been on the Reload Online site. I've traded with him. He's a hell of a nice guy. And he just happens to be a genius when it comes to music. So, Mark, if you watch this, come on my channel, friend. Why not? What do you have to lose other than your pride? I'm just kidding. I'm being sarcastic. Would love to talk to Mark Pritchard. And I have a small audience, but I have a very dedicated audience who loves electronic music, whatever that's worth. I love these guys. Have I illustrated this enough? Global communication. Treat yourself to some of the best music you'll ever hear in your life. I mean, my favorites, yeah, it's pretty much anything from Reload. By the way, Mark, where's the new Reload album? Come on my channel and tell me and my audience why we don't have a new Reload album, because I know you want to talk about that. People have been bothering Mark about a new Reload album for probably over 20 years now, so he's sick of hearing it. I'm being sarcastic. But it comes from a place of love, Mark. We love Reload. We're still waiting. We will die waiting. That's how much we love you and Reload. Seriously, guys, if you've never heard Collection of Short Stories, go do this now. It's a beautiful record. One of the greatest techno albums you'll ever hear in your life. It is beautiful. And it came out well over 30 years ago. What was it, 93? 1993? Anyway, I'm going to end this before this video turns into like 5 hours of me gushing. One of my all-time favorite groups, man. Again, I can't, my brain is reeling on when I stop and consider and think about how much I've listened to this group over the years. It's mind-numbing. I can't even begin to guess a number of hours that I've listened to this group. Absolutely genius music. And I can't say enough about them. I think at the end of the day, you just have to go listen to them and let their music wash over you. And be open-minded. Don't go into global communication expecting one thing. Understand that these are guys that want to make different types of music, but always give you an insanely high benchmark of quality. That's what they do. And again, just to promote this, Mark's got a new album coming with Tom York. How exciting is that? I've got my copy pre-ordered. You should go pre-order your copy too. Why not? Go to Bleep. Bleep.com. I'm trying to think of any other random Mark release. So I've already mentioned Secret Ingredients, Reload, his Harmonic stuff, Africa High Tech. Just go look it up. There's Shaft. Isn't that something he remixed? There's a Reload. Go look it up. There's a Reload remix of a group called Shaft. Even his remixes. everything. Hundreds of hours of brilliant music out there for you to discover and enjoy. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.